Hi, everybody. You guys are doing so good. Wasn't that a lot of fun? Yeah, drop me a reaction there and just let us know. We love your feedback. Thank you, Cassie and Bobby. I love that training so much. You guys make it so much fun to learn about disabilities. And y'all, wasn't that video great? How cool is it that that video in just a few minutes sums up how to interact with people with disabilities? And it's not that hard, and it doesn't have to be awkward at all. So with that, we've got some really great, they're 1-minute videos, and we're going to talk about how to interview people with disabilities. And so if you guys know someone with a disability, feel free to tell them about this content, and maybe you'll learn something yourself. But let's kick that off. Stephanie, if you can cue that up, we're going to watch that. And when we're finished, we're going to come back on. Y'all can turn your videos on. We're not playing any more videos at that point. So we should be able to see you, and we want to hear back from you, hear your questions. So, so let it roll.
Inclusive interviewing at a glance. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm here to explore some best practices for inclusive interviewing that I use here at Microsoft. The most important first step is to solicit requests for accommodations early and often in the recruitment process. Our recruiters ask about accommodation requests before the candidate's arrival, either by email or by phone. The recruiter simply asks, "Do you require an accommodation for your interview?" By asking and responding promptly to candidates' requests, we work with them to evaluate which specific accommodations could set them up for success in their interviews. Next, we consider the interview location carefully. For example, if a candidate tells me they use a wheelchair or other mobility device, then I schedule the interviews in a single location where all interviewers can come to the candidate. Rather than having the candidate move locations, they remain in a single comfortable space. Many traditional interviews include hands-on exercises where candidates respond to questions by drawing on a whiteboard. I encourage candidates to bring their own computers for a more accessible experience. For example, a candidate who is blind can answer a technical coding question using their preferred assistive technology on their own computer.
Int I equals 0.
Finally, during the recruitment process, many candidates meet with multiple interviewers in a day. I schedule breaks between each interviewer. Candidates have time to rest in a quiet room, collect their thoughts, and get a beverage. This creates a more inclusive environment where candidates can perform at their best. Thanks for watching and sharing in our journey towards a more inclusive culture. Together, if we create inclusive interviews, we empower all candidates to shine. To learn more, visit Microsoft.com.
Okay, great.
/accessibility.
The next video is going to be about interviewing candidates with vision disabilities.
Hi, I'm Tarina from Microsoft, and I'm here to explore some best practices for interviewing candidates with vision disabilities. If you have documents or other written materials that you would like the candidate to review, then provide the candidate with accessible electronic copies ahead of time for them to pre-read. When you meet the candidate, identify yourself and speak directly to the candidate in a normal tone and volume while maintaining eye contact. Let them know where you are standing or sitting. When going to shake hands with the candidate, let them know you are offering to shake hands. Ask if they need assistance to walk to your office. They may decline your offer. If the candidate accepts the offer, ask if they would like to take your elbow and let them know where you are standing. As you're walking, make sure to verbalize turns or anything in the hallway that may get in their way, such as garbage cans or recycling boxes. Expect the candidate to use their own laptop or device during the interview, which will have their screen reader assistive technology. Any type of coding questions would be done on their device, so be sure to sit next to them to view alongside instead of standing over the candidate. Remember that service animals, such as guide dogs, are working. Don't speak to or pet them. When you are finished with your conversation, be sure to thank the candidate for their time. Thanks for watching and sharing in our journey towards a more inclusive culture. Together, if we provide inclusive interviews, we empower all candidates to shine. To learn.
Okay, great. So one other thing I want to mention is you're not alone. If you ever run into a situation where you've got a candidate with a disability, y'all can call us at any time and let us know about your questions, and we can certainly help you with whatever it is you're needing to walk through that process. So y'all definitely keep our map in hand. And the next one we're going to learn about interviewing candidates with mobility disabilities.
Hi, I'm Jen from Microsoft, and I want to share with you some best practices for interviewing candidates with a mobility disability. A candidate's assistive devices, such as a wheelchair, are a part of their personal space. You should not touch their wheelchair, lean on it, or take a hold of it. Always ask before providing assistance. This includes opening doors, reaching for materials, or offering to carry something for them. Ensure you're speaking with the candidate at eye level, particularly during an extended period of time. Invite the candidate to use their own laptop or device during the interview, as opposed to whiteboarding. If they are using their device or a piece of paper, be sure to sit next to them to view alongside instead of standing over the candidate so it is more collaborative. Thanks for watching and sharing in our journey towards a more inclusive culture. Together, if we provide inclusive interviews, we empower all candidates to shine. To learn more, visit Microsoft.com/inclusive hiring.
All right, great. Microsoft.com and / inclusive hiring. And so the next one we're going to learn about are candidates with learning disabilities. So this could be a variety of different things like you learned about in our previous training. And so check it out.
Hi, I'm Tarina from Microsoft, and I want to tell you about some practices for interviewing candidates with hearing disabilities. People who are deaf or hard of hearing may be able to hear some sound, but may not be able to distinguish words. Other people may not be able to hear sound at all. People who are deaf may know sign language, or may know how to read lips, or may use captioning services. If the candidate has a sign language interpreter with them, maintain eye contact and speak directly toward the person with the disability, even when the individual is looking at the interpreter. Speak at your normal pace. Ensure that you are not standing in front of a light source, as this can make it difficult for the candidate to see and understand your expressions. Listen attentively to someone speaking. Be patient and wait for them to finish, rather than correcting or completing the sentence for the person. Never pretend to understand if you are having difficulty doing so. Instead, repeat what you understood and allow the person to confirm or restate it.
Please allow me to express myself using translator.
Thanks for watching and sharing in our journey towards a more inclusive culture. Together, if we create inclusive interviews, we empower all candidates to shine. To learn more, visit
Sorry about that last one, y'all. I said learning disabilities. I meant to say hearing disabilities, and I have a cool story to share with y'all about a personal experience of that. Hopefully, y'all will have some stories as well, so we can all learn from each other during our Q&A chat. So next one is on cognitive disabilities.
Hi, I'm Jen from Microsoft, and I want to tell you about some best practices for interviewing candidates with cognitive disabilities. When you have scheduled an interview with a candidate that has disclosed a cognitive disability, share as much about the day and times with them to set expectations for their interview. Welcome the candidate and invite them to the interview room. Bring a printed copy of your interview questions. Being able to refer to them in writing, as well as talking through them, can help the candidate in processing their response. Invite the candidate to use their own laptop or device during the interview. When responses will be typed on their device, be sure to sit next to them to collaborate effectively instead of standing over them. Allow the candidate to process the question and think through their responses. Ask if they're ready to respond, have any clarifying questions, or would like additional time. The candidate may, quote, think out loud before responding to your interview question. Give them time to do so. Remember that maintaining eye contact may be difficult for the candidate. If you need more information about their response, ask a follow-up question for the candidate to clarify. Remember, all cognitive disabilities are different. What is true for one person will be different than another. Each candidate will have their own unique needs. Thanks for watching and sharing in our journey towards a more inclusive culture. Together, if we create inclusive interviews, we empower all candidates to shine. To learn more, visit Microsoft.com/inclusive hiring.
Okay, great. Thank you. And that is my contact information there. We will definitely be sending that out. And Steph, if you could stop screen sharing, and y'all feel free to come on really quick. We want to learn from each other. We're a little early before we go to lunch. We're gonna let y'all out early. Let's talk about your experiences with people with disabilities. Hopefully y'all learned a bunch of stuff today. I just want to kick it off. I'll share my story. One of my best friends that I grew up with, well, I didn't completely grow up with her, but I met her when I was about 12 years old, and her parents were deaf. And those are the first people with disabilities I had really, interacted with. I later learned that my friend in the deaf culture is called a CODA, or a child of a deaf adult. And when I went through this very training and learned how to talk to people that were deaf, and I was already working here, by the way, so we learn stuff here every day. Like Bobby said, terminology changes, things that were once okay, kind of change. But once I went through the training and I learned that I wasn't supposed to just look at my friend who was interpreting for her deaf parents, I saw them at Hobby Lobby and I couldn't wait to practice on them what I had just learned. I literally stared at my friend's mom the entire time. It was kind of awkward because she'd been around me for years. And I was an adult at this point, and she's like, looking at me, and I'm like, was so proud that I knew not to look at the interpreter, that I needed to look at my friend's mom. So I was like, I learned how to talk to you, and I made it kind of stupid, but it's a learning process. I had no idea that it was like rude to not look at the person, that was communicating in a different language than me. But anyway, does anyone else have any funny stories, or if you'd like to share, please come on and let us know, because we want to learn from you today.
My camera is disabled today and I'm keeping it that way. But anyway, I was just thinking as watching some of the videos that some disabilities may not be noticeable, like people with on the autism spectrum. And I think the reading exercise showing the scrambled words was sort of an example of that. We can make out most of the words, and it shows me how someone that might have a disability like dyslexia or something is able to get through the reading because they've memorized or they kind of know what fits. And I recognize how difficult that might be, because every once in a while they may run into something they can't figure out. But it's it takes a lot of courage to be able to function by memorizing something that we might be seeing the words normally and they don't see them. So that was revealing to me. And again, it makes me realize how hard it is for people like they may be on the autism spectrum. They don't have an obvious physical disability and they may be very high functioning, but it makes me want to learn more about that and to be able to know how to not make them feel out of place or anything. So thanks for the information. It was quite helpful.
I know with all of y'all on here, there are questions from Cassie and Bobby's presentation. I am certain of it. And so nothing is off the table. Ask us anything. We learn from you every day too, but if y'all have a question about interacting with someone with disability, we're not going to judge you. This is a judgment-free zone here. So you can drop me a direct chat, or Stephanie, she's recording. So if it takes her a second to get back to your chat, feel free to message me or Bobby or Cassie. But yeah, ask away.
I wanted to, this is Jill Corbin, and I have a daughter who is dyslexic, and she was diagnosed with it a couple of years ago, and we have found this font called Dyslexia font. I don't know if you're familiar with it. She just finished 5th grade, and it's a, a font that is more weighted at the bottom of the letters, and we actually worked with her school to get her documents. Anytime the teachers would do something that wasn't like a Xerox copy, that it was something that they did in Word or that changed to that font, and it has helped her tremendously. And so I didn't know if, sometimes when you have documents and people are reading, I know that's a big thing with people who have dyslexia, just having an alternate option for them. And it has made a huge difference. So we actually have a program that will actually put her documents in that open dyslexic font.
Jill, if you have a link to that, will you put it in the chat? Because
Yeah.
I think everyone would love to have that. Thank you for that. Bobby?
Yeah, I have heard of certain fonts are easier for some people to read than other fonts. So I think it's great to know that. And again, things like this are coming and changing every day. We're
Your
hearing about
reception,
different,
your reception's a little off, Bobby. You might want to
different-
turn the camera
and I
off.
know with AIDT on here, there's a lot of AIDT on here. Okay, so frustrating. That's my disability today, is apparently my camera. Yeah, no, with all the AIDT here too, I'm sure that there are accommodations that are requested, that it's good to know about all the different technology.
Yes, it's definitely good information. Thank you.
A couple of apps y'all might want to take note of, and Jason Martin will probably mention this later. If you guys are an Android user, there's a really cool app that Google put out. It's called Live Transcribe. So I use this with my father-in-law who has a hearing loss. It transcribed my northern and southern accent really well, and I talk really fast. So it was catching all of it. It caught some things it probably shouldn't have, but anyway, y'all, if you're at a meeting, or if you, and you can project this onto a screen for everybody in the audience to see, as long as, you're saying everything, it's going to pick up what you're saying. But at dinner, I simply laid the phone down and it was transcribing for him, and so he could read it. And the Apple version of that is called Apple Notes. Those of you that have an iPhone, y'all might want to, jot that down. And there's another one, if you have someone deaf that you're communicating with, obviously you want to use an interpreter, like Cassie and Bobby had taught us earlier, and the video talked to us about. But there is a really cool app called Ava, and it lets you communicate back and forth with someone rather than like having to pass your phones back and forth. So those are the cool things. But Jill, thanks for starting us off with that, giving us some ideas about dyslexia. So if any of y'all have some other suggestions like that, I know the first round of folks, they had a few things, but yeah, y'all feel free to mention that. Do we have any more questions? Are y'all thinking about lunch?
No questions on my end.
Okay, anybody else going once? All right, well, good. We're getting out a minute early. How about that, right? So we're gonna leave the Zoom up, and we'll see y'all back at 1 o'clock. And those of you that work in Office, Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, y'all are gonna be in for a treat, because Jason Martin, our in-house expert, is coming back at 1 to show y'all how to make sure your documents are accessible, especially if you're uploading something to the internet. So anyway, y'all stay tuned for that. But we'll see y'all back at 1 o'clock. Enjoy y'all's lunch. Be safe out there. And thank you so much for participating with us earlier. Thank you to our speakers. And we'll see you back in a little bit.